Now, from Into Tomorrow, this is an ITTV special report.
FaceChipz is a Facebook with training wheels, if you will, a safer social networking site for kids, and a great opportunity to do some pretty cool things with kids of their own age and share some unique ideas. They've got some pretty cool ideas in mind, as a matter of fact. The founder and CEO of FaceChipz is George Zaloom. Hey, George, welcome Into Tomorrow.
Nice to meet you, Dave.
Glad to have you with us. How would you describe what FaceChipz is all about? Because when Rob said, hey, it's kind of Facebook with training wheels and a safer environment, that got our attention.
Yes.
We have a lot of our audience that says, you know, I'd love to have my daughter or my son on Facebook, but they're 8, 9, 10 years old. I don't think it's appropriate.
Yeah. I have 4 daughters, the youngest of which is 9, and the oldest is 20 years old. And
quite a span of social networking there.
Yes, we've seen it all from the very beginning to, we've seen good things and bad things on social networks.
Sure.
And my youngest daughter basically was growing out of Club Penguin and Webkins and was very interested in what the older sisters were doing. And she said, Dad, is there a chance that I could go on Facebook? And I said, well, when you turn 13.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, not likely now. But
yeah. So there's a lot of kids, though, and a lot of parents that are being pressured into putting their kids or letting them kids go on social networks that aren't of the appropriate age to go on there. So what we did is we created a social network for kids that is appropriate and is safer for them.
Now, of course, the company is called FaceChipz, so one would expect that there would be chips involved,
yes.
and not the kind that you would eat with dip. But it gives you an example. There are some FaceChipz with
yes.
like emoticons on them, and they're kind of like for adults poker chips. But tell me the whole concept of FaceChipz with the various emoticons, and how does that play into it?
Okay, well, FaceChipz are connectable, if you will. They're a collectible, and they're a connecting device also.
Okay.
So kids buy a package of 5 FaceChipz. They sell them right now at Toys R Us, and you can get them for $4.99 for a package of 5.
Okay.
So it's basically $1 a chip.
Yeah.
And you go on and you create an online profile for yourself, very much the way you would on a typical social network. And then you take your chips and you register each chip to your profile. And each chip has a serial number on the back of it, a unique serial number. And then you give that chip to your best friend, or you give one to a cousin, or maybe you give one to some kid you met at summer camp, and then they take that chip and they go register that chip on their profile, and then the computer basically sees the same serial number belongs to 2 kids. And when it does that, it connects them together.
Okay.
And then the code on the back...
Is that part of the age appropriateness, for example, so that the serial numbers, when you're registering, you're getting appropriate information, mom and dad are helping, perhaps, that sort of thing?
Well, the key thing about that, it creates a closed social network.
Okay.
It's basically, it's a network that's created through the exchange of these friendship tokens. So when 2 kids connect, the code on the back of that chip becomes invalid, so that way, if a stranger found it, they couldn't pick it up and connect to the kid.
Good.
So it creates a secure bond between those 2 users,
Gotcha.
which is the big issue with social networks for kids, where with younger kids, it's not appropriate for them to go on an open social network.
Yeah, exactly. And while it might be okay, we've heard from listeners that say, well, I keep an eye on when they're on Facebook and so forth, and we don't have that many friends, but that may not be the issue. It's just that as you connect with a friend of a friend of a friend, and all of a sudden now they're 3rd or 4th
yes.
friend removed, maybe they're getting involved in something they shouldn't be. So FaceChipz is appropriate.
That's exactly it. It's the problem with fringe friends.
Yeah.
It might be okay for a 9-year-old to connect with an 11-year-old, but when the 11-year-old happens to be friends with a 15-year-old, which might be appropriate for them, but all of a sudden you've got the 9 or the 7-year-old friends with the 15-year-old, that's where you get into problems.
But now, can the kids trade these chips somehow, or at that point, once the number's used, they can kind of use them as
they become a
sort of
collectible
currency or something in a sense? Or
each chip is worth points. So let's say this were a 100 points chip, so you get 100 points for registering it, and when you give it to your friend, you get another 100 points, and the friend gets 100 points.
Oh, cool. All
so
right.
it encourages kids to do something to engage in a new play behavior, which is giving, because when you give, you get in return. So
thus the give to get, because I was seeing that associated with your company as well, and I thought,
Yes.
how cool is that to help teach the kids?
Yes.
Give and get and share and enjoy and all the fun stuff.
Yes.
Well, that's very cool, and parents can be involved as well now, right? I mean, anytime the kids are online, they should kind of be keeping an eye, but can parents sort of do something to not only encourage the kids to be doing this? Or?
Yeah, well, we have to we have to adhere to the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, and we do. So we go out of our way to get parental consent to make sure that a parent has given approval for their child to use FaceChipz and also be able to monitor their kids' activity. But after that, it's a cool social network for kids, and they can do all the cool stuff that they can do, like on a Facebook or a MySpace, but they can do it in an environment where they're just communicating with their friends.
Well, George, you're doing something I think very unique, very cool, so by all means keep it up. I think the fact that you've got the 4 daughters you mentioned helps. And certainly, by process of, I think I got to do this for my own family, has helped several others. FaceChipz with a Z.com. FaceChipz.com. We'll link you there, too, when you hit us up at intotomorrow.com. Look for the Game Developers Conference. Yeah, I can tell it's the end of the day. The Game Developers Conference broadcast at intotomorrow.com. We'll link you to George's site and all of our guests. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us here at GDC, or whatever the letters are.
Thank you, Dave.
Our pleasure. Back with more as Into Tomorrow continues. I'm Dave Graveline on the Advanced Media Network.